Good morning. My name is Michelle Hazen. I am a member of our shared worship team. When I first heard the news that Reverend Elizabeth will be stepping into a new calling, I felt sad for us. 14 years is no small thing. It's not just time, it's seasons of growth and healing and laughter and shared life. And in that time, she's been a guide and a steady presence and a living example of love in action. Our congregation has grown. We have the expanded church building. We have a shared worship ministry. We have a lay pastoral ministry. We have a new covenant. Reverend Elizabeth is leaving us better than she came to us. So even as we feel that ache of goodbye, I also feel gratitude and joy because this new path isn't an ending, but a continuation. Wherever she goes, she's going to carry our community's love with her, and I'll have no doubt she'll leave that same kind of mark that's deep and lasting and full of grace. So we'll miss her dearly and celebrate her courage to answer a new call and the ways that she's shaped us, and send her forward with full hearts. And now back to our regular programming. I'd like to extend a special welcome to those of you who are joining us for the first time. We are very glad that you are here. If you've come in person, we hope you've received a welcome packet with an information card on it. If you don't have one yet, please ask following the church service. Fill that out and put it in the offering basket or drop it in the church office. And if you're joining us online, there's a link on our website to the electronic version of that same card. Our welcoming committee members have yellow name tags and can answer your questions or point you toward additional information. And I bet even people without yellow name tags would help you too. Whether you are new or not, please consider staying for coffee and conversation after the service, either downstairs in our fellowship hall or in our Zoom room. And if you prefer someplace a little quieter, you can grab a beverage and head to the minister's office on the ground floor, last door on the left, where a member of our worship team will host a smaller gathering. We want everyone to feel supported and at home here. There's extra spaces today, so there'll also be space in the RE office and then up here as well if that's needed. So let's say our words of welcome together. Whether this is your first or your 1000th Sunday with us, and whether you scrolled, rolled, zoomed, ran, or danced in, we are glad you chose to join us. We are one people with many beliefs, identities, origins, sexualities, and genders. All are welcome here. And then I lost my page, so sorry. Hello across the technical divide. Oh yes, let's say hello across the technical divide to our folks. We're going to have the folks on Zoom put their videos on so we can see your faces and your waves. Let's say hello. Everybody wave, and then we will see the folks in our congregation will say hello.
You want to use mine?
Nope, I got it.
Okay.
There it is. Okay, we have a few announcements. So I'm going to give an announcement first, then we'll have Ash and David come up for announcements. So there'll be a New to UU workshop in 2 weeks on April 12th at 11:45. The membership committee will provide a light lunch, and Reverend Elizabeth will share some basic information about UUism and the UUCP in particular, and answer any questions you might have. And then this coming week, we're also going to be hosting Family Promise, and our volunteer our volunteers it's a pretty well filled out. I think there's a couple towards the end of the week, maybe Saturday breakfast and the trailer on Sunday at the end of the week is still empty. So if you need any more information about that, you can certainly reach out to Nancy or myself, and we can help get you on there for that. So Ash and David.
Hello. Good morning. So, some of y'all may remember a while back, Olivia and I hosted a transgender inclusion in congregations workshop. We're doing it again. This time, it'll be a little bit different. We are framing it a little bit more after a Wellspring course this time. So it'll be, we ask folks to have the material consumed before we get to session, and then in session, we get to really discuss and dive into the material and see how it applies to ourselves and our congregation. So, if you're interested, even if you attended the last one, I feel like you might still be able to gain something from this one. So, we will be meeting every Saturday in April. So that is the 4th, the 11th, the 18th, and the 25th. And dinner will be provided at 5, and that'll be in the fellowship hall. And then discussion will be held from 6 o'clock to 7:30 p.m. in the 3rd floor library. This is kind of a half potluck, so you're welcome to bring sides or desserts, but we're going to be providing pizza, that sort of thing for the main course.
Ash,
Yes.
is it okay for people to come and go, like if they have travel plans for a Saturday, or is it expected that they commit to all 4?
So ideally you can make it to all 4. Our plan is to, over the summer, because we expect folks are going to be gone, to offer an online only Zoom version. So if that is the case, that you feel you're going to be having to dip in and out, you might get more value out of that if you are potentially able to be more consistently attached to one of these guys that we have in our pockets as opposed to in a physical location. Any other questions? Okay. So because this version of the course has a little bit more commitment to it, we're going to be sending out weekly materials. We do have some sign-up sheets, so when you sign up, you are kind of agreeing that we're going to be sending you the weekly materials. If you can't make it, it's not the end of the world. If you're sick or something, please don't come and get everybody else sick. But ideally, try your best to make it to all of them, because you will be missing out on quite a lot of great discussion if you do have to miss. So please sign up. We have sign-up sheets. Oh goodness, I believe we have one by the name tags, and then one by somewhere downstairs in the fellowship hall. I think there's a third one floating around somewhere. But also you can find me. I have purple hair. You can see me. And you can come up and say hi and say, hey, I'd like to sign up. And I have a handy dandy little QR code for you. So if that is the most accessible way, I'm going to be kind of wandering around the fellowship hall after service. So we hope to see lots of folks there.
Hi, I'm David Nelson from the Ignite Grants Committee, and this is your last call to get those grant applications in. The deadline's Tuesday. We'd probably bleed the deadline for a few days if you can't quite get it together before then, but we're giving grants up to $7,000. We have about $13,000 to give. You have to be a member of the congregation or a committee to apply. If you need to be inspired, on the right side of the wall is the grants we gave out last year, and hope to you have some great ideas.
Here end the announcements. I always am like, am I sure? Is there someone else out there? Okay. The land that our church is built on is part of the ancestral homeland for the Nimipu, the people, and mistakenly called the Nez Perce, or pierced noses, by French-speaking trappers and traders. We acknowledge the land is held in sacred kinship since time immemorial. The land and its people suffered immeasurable trauma brought by Euro-American society, and we are working with its resilient peoples to show respect and contribute to the healing and nurturing of its Hiitswitwiti's precious land and all its peoples. We're hoping that folks on joining us via Zoom have a chalice or a candle to light and something to light it with. Let's light our chalices together. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek and seek to share.
Good morning, everyone. I am the Reverend Dr. Elizabeth Stevens, and I have 3 more months of having the best job in the world, serving this congregation as its minister. For our Christian neighbors, today is Palm Sunday. It's the day when they recall the moment that Jesus entered Jerusalem on the back of a donkey, as his followers welcomed him with shouts of joy, waving palm branches. Palm Sunday offers an invitation to tend to our sense of call, to step into our own power. As Jan Richardson puts it, this week invites us to consider how we are moving through our own journey. Are we allowing ourselves to be swept along by circumstances, traveling our road by default? Or are we seeking to walk with intention and discernment, creating our path with some measure of courage and clarity by which Christ walked his, even in the midst of forces beyond our control? Meanwhile, for our Jewish neighbors, the season of Passover begins on Wednesday. Passover remembers the story of the Exodus, the flight from slavery in Egypt. It invites us to identify places in our lives where we feel constricted, and to push through those places and choose the unknown future, the future that offers hope for something different. Rabbi Rachel Barenblatt, also known as the Velveteen Rabbi, writes, "Every year, Pesach calls us to leap, but the leap doesn't have to be literal. If you're in a damaging relationship and can't see your way out of it in a practical sense, maybe the leap you need is the internal leap of faith that life can be better than this. If you're trapped in dire fiscal straits, maybe the leap you need is the internal leap of hope that life can become better than you know it to be. Faith and trust and hope aren't just prerequisites for leaping. They are themselves a leap into the unknown. They ask us to affirm, even when circumstances seem most bleak, that life can be better than it is now. That though we are, in the language of the Psalms, in the narrow straits, God, or the universe, or life, or possibility, will answer us with expansiveness." Now, both of these stories are resonating with me for obvious reasons. In announcing my intended transition to a new ministry this past week, I definitely feel like I'm following my sense of call and making a leap of faith. Also, though, I know it comes next in these stories. 40 years wandering in the desert on the one hand, betrayal and death on the other. What on earth am I doing? Seriously, though, I've always been much better at loving than I am at letting go. And I hate transitions. I feel like those two things might be related. And yet, as I said last week when we were talking about covenant, we're either growing and learning or we are dead. Those are the only options. So whether these stories resonate with you in terms of the ministerial transition or whether they touch on some other aspect of your life, or even invoke the greater context in which we're living these days, where political and financial chaos are convincing more and more people to look for a path to a new way of structuring society. Let's explore the stories together, excavating what we know about call and courage and leaps of faith. But first, let's sing number 360, Here We Have Gathered. And now I invite the children forward for a story. If you brought non-perishable goods for our little free pantry, go ahead and bring them with you.
Good morning.
I just want to say you were singing happy birthday to Katie. I know some of us kind of lost the thread when we got to that part, so happy birthday, Katie. I have two readings for you today. The first is by the Velveteen Rabbi again. I really like her a lot. And it's called Ready. And she begins by quoting Exodus. So the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading bowls wrapped in their cloaks upon their shoulders. You'll need to travel light. Take what you can carry, a book, a poem, a battered tin cup. Your child strapped to your chest, clutching your necklace in one hot, possessive fist. So the dough isn't ready. So your heart isn't ready. You haven't said goodbye to the places where you hid as a child, to the friends who aren't interested in the journey, to the graves you've tended. But if you wait until you feel fully ready, you may never take the leap at all. And infinity is calling you forth out of this birth canal and into the future's wide expanse. Learn to improvise flat cakes without yeast. Learn to read new alphabets. Wear God like a cloak and stride forth with confidence. You won't know where you're going, but you have the words of our sages, the songs of our mother, the inspiration wrapped in your kneading bowl. Trust that what you carry will sustain you, and take the first step out the door. And the second is by Mary Oliver, in honor of Palm Sunday. The poet thinks about the donkey. On the outskirts of Jerusalem, the donkey waited, not especially brave or filled with understanding. He stood and waited. How horses turned out into the meadow leap with delight, how doves released from their cages clatter away, splashed with sunlight. But the donkey, tied to a tree as usual, waited. Then he let himself be led away. Then he let the stranger mount. Never had he seen such crowds, and I wonder if he at all imagined what was to happen. Still, he was what he has always been, small, dark, obedient. I hope finally he felt brave. I hope finally he loved the man who rode so lightly upon him, as he lifted one dusty hoof and stepped, as he had to, forward.
Good morning, good people. I also want to give a shout out to those who were involved in the No Kings yesterday. What an uplifting hope it was for us. And you know, as an old folk singer that I am, it was very nostalgic. And when I was watching the Minnesota, Minneapolis, St. Paul's No Kings rally. And when Joan Baez got up and sang, "The times they are a-changing," I tell you, it brought tears to an old man's heart. Anyway, I've been recruited to play this song for you today. And it's a very old song. It goes way back. I believe it's traced back to an old, black spiritual from predates the Civil War. I think you'll all be familiar with it, or I'm sure you've heard it before. Get this thing set up here. Poor, wayfaring stranger, traveling through this world of woe. But there's no sickness, toil, or danger in that bright land to which I go. I'm going there to see my Father. Going there no more to roam. I'm just going over Jordan. I'm just going over home. I know dark clouds will gather round me. I know my way is rough and steep. Beautiful fields lie just before me, where God reveals His mystery. I'm going there to see my mother. She said she'd meet me when I come. I'm just going over Jordan. I'm just going over home. I'm going there to see my brother and all my friends gone on before. I'm just going over Jordan. I'm just going over home. I'm just going over home.
Springs ago, I was in the midst of choosing to answer another call, about to make another leap of faith, one that brought me here to serve as the minister of the UU Church of the Palouse. Would it surprise you to hear that it wasn't an easy choice? Would it surprise you to hear I was scared? I was really afraid that I couldn't do it, that I couldn't do this job, that I couldn't successfully be a minister in this world. My previous settled ministry in Bremerton, Washington, while it worked well by many measures, it was also conflicted most of the time, and I left it feeling bruised and burnt out and pretty disillusioned. I'd been newly diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, and I was thinking hard about leaving ministry and Unitarian Universalism altogether. With some wise counsel and solid support, I decided to give it one more try to see if I could do this work differently and sustainably here in Moscow. And the first year, things unfolded in really lovely ways. I remember thinking, this is really doable. I think I jinxed myself. Because just as I got comfortable, my dad's situation deteriorated to the point where it became clear that he could no longer live on his own. None of my siblings were in a place where they could care for him, so we moved him out here, and I took on the responsibility of being his primary caregiver. How many of you have served as a caregiver for somebody? It is no joke, right? It is no joke. But I told myself, breathe, Elizabeth, stay centered, stay present, just do the next right thing. And you supported me, and I moved through it. And then we had the shooting. I remember thinking, thank God I researched trauma in my doctoral work. Maybe, just maybe, I can help folks get through this. I went back to that same mantra, breathe, stay centered, stay present, just do the next right thing. And you supported me, and we supported each other. And together, we moved through that devastating loss. And we also did the same thing through all of the challenges and losses that followed. Donald's death by suicide and the pandemic, the indiscriminate cruelty of the Idaho legislature, Christchurch shenanigans, not one but two Trump presidencies. We said goodbye to J.D. Stevens and Sue Allard, Beth Turney, Jim Cooley, Jim Waddell, Tom Woodrum, Marty Godshaw, Chuck Harris, Pat Peake, David Rankin, Fred Turney, Cora Lee, Sarah Hollop. I could go on and name all of the names, and I would just fall apart in front of you. So many hard things. But through it all, we breathed. We stayed centered. We stayed present. We supported one another, and we did one right thing after another and found our way through. And we didn't just move through or forward. We got bigger. We got brighter. We got better. We built this incredible building, but more than that, we built this community that has depth and resilience. We learned to have strong cores and soft knees. I am so, so proud of what we've accomplished together in the last 14 years. And I am so, so grateful for the grace and the space that you've given me for all of the other major transitions in my personal life. My dad's death, my kids graduating and leaving home, and my divorce. I really mean it when I say I am oh God, I can't see. I mean it when I say I am the luckiest of all ministers with the best job in the world, serving some of the most incredible humans on the planet. I simply just could not love you any more than I do. And yet it's time. It's time for another leap of faith. And I'm scared and excited and grieving. All the feelings, right? All the feelings. Breathe, Elizabeth. Stay centered, stay present. Just do the next right thing. Which brings us back to Palm Sunday and Passover. Now, some people actually think Jesus knew what was going to happen when he entered Jerusalem, but I don't actually buy that. None of us knows what's going to happen. And some people think the Jewish people were forced to wander the desert for 40 years as a punishment for not following God's rules perfectly. I don't buy that either. That's not how life works, and it's not any God I could believe in that would demand perfection. I think actually what happens next in the stories is just people being people. Sometimes decent and sometimes awful. And if there's anything to be taken from the what of what came next, it's simply that the path to liberation is going to be a struggle, which we already know. But the how, the way the characters in these stories move through difficult and uncertain situations, that may be worth paying attention to. So let's start with Jesus. I'll say a lot more about this next week. You know, I got in trouble in my first year for talking about Jesus too much on Easter. So I'm going to talk about Jesus again next week, which is Easter. You can stay home if you need to in your jammies and eat your chocolate, whatever. So I'm going to talk about Jesus a lot more next week. But at the heart of Jesus' message is this exhortation that we need to choose love and compassion and justice and mercy instead of fear and greed and division and hate. You know what? I think about the world we're living in right now, and I think those are exactly the right marching orders. Amen. As for the Jewish people, they took what was important with them and they left the rest behind. They stuck together. They looked out for the most vulnerable. They tried things out. They made mistakes. They established new norms. They found their way slowly and imperfectly. In other words, they did all of the things that people need to do during transitions. And we're not just transitioning as a church, right? We're transitioning as a world. As the capitalist society crumbles, as the structures of oppression, God willing, start to crumble, as we find a new way of being human that's kinder and more sustainable and more connected. So while we're thinking about transitions, I want to remind us all of some of the things we know about them. In particular, the work of William Bridges. I've shared this with you before, but it feels like this would be a good time to repeat it. Yeah? Bridges is the author of 3 books: Transitions, Making Sense of Life's Changes, Managing Transitions, Making the Most of Change, and The Way of Transition, Embracing Life's Most Difficult Moments, which was a personal memoir written after his wife died. Bridges teaches that change is situational. You lose your job today, and next week you're working at another job. You live in one town, and then you move to the other. Transition, though, transition is psychological. Transitions touch on who we are. These changes in our outer circumstances change our inner reality. And each of them, every transition, involves letting go of things that are important to us: identity, stability, security, familiarity. The kinds of changes that lead us through a transition include changes in marital status like marriage, divorce, separation, or death of a spouse, changes in professional status, job loss, promotion, change in responsibilities, changes in physical status, injury or illness, weight loss or gain, changes in family status, birth of a child or a grandchild, gaining a family member through marriage or other means, a child leaving home, changes in living status, a move to a new town or just a new building, changes in habit, acquiring or addressing an addiction. Bridges identifies 5 different elements of a natural ending experience. The first is disengagement. To disengage is to separate from the place, relationship, job, or whatever it is that is ending. This is an outwardly visible process, the facts of the ending, as it were, and it involves separating ourselves from what was familiar and known. The second is dismantling. Dismantling is more of an internal process. We have to take apart the old habits and attitudes and behaviors. We disassemble ourselves so we can put ourselves back together in a new way on the other side of the transition. The third, disidentification, is about letting go of the old identity. You know, as humans, we sometimes get kind of attached to our description of ourselves. Major transitions often involve a change in how we self-identify, and that can actually be quite tricky. The fourth is disenchantment, a process by which we let go not just of what we had, but of our illusions about how great it was or how great it could become. You know, I have this feeling as you start talking about it, you're going to discover that I wasn't all that in a slice and a bag of chips. You know, I'm human. I made mistakes. I know I let people down sometimes, and I'm so sorry for that. But, you know, we're not perfect. We have to let old dreams die before new dreams can be born. So we take off the rose-colored glasses and accept the last chapter as it was. We embrace reality and let go of our expectations, our hopes, and our illusions. The final state is disorientation. It is normal to feel unsteady or strange in the midst of transitions because we've lost some important moorings or anchors. The familiar is gone. We're entering the wilderness, that strange territory known as the neutral zone. I hate the neutral zone. That said, I don't think there's any way to avoid it. We've all been here before. We'll all go here again. So here's what I know about surviving the neutral zone. It feels awful, but there's no going over, around, or under it. You just have to go through it. The pathway that makes it possible to go through it appears only one small bit at a time. The rest is shrouded in mist and mystery. In other words, we don't get advance notice. Clarity comes in these tiny, small pieces. What's the one next right thing? I know in the neutral zone I'm not as functional as I'm accustomed to being. The neutral zone, according to Bridges, is a period of lowered productivity and diminished feelings of competence. Maybe that's why I hate it so much. I know it doesn't last forever. Well, it kind of does last forever in a certain way because one transition tends to lead into the next, but each individual transition has a beginning, a middle, and an end. I usually realize I've gotten to the end only in retrospect, though. There's no sense of a finish line. One day I just look back and say, oh, this particular piece of my identity doesn't feel weird anymore. It fits now. I know that structure helps. Having routines and regular practices makes the discomfort of the neutral zone more bearable. And I also know that the structures that help morph over time. When we're in the neutral zone, we should do our best to pay close attention to our own inner wisdom, which will let us know what we need now and then what we will need next. So remember the 5 stages of ending: disengagement, dismantling, disidentification, disenchantment, and disorientation. Each of those has its counterpart in the new beginning. We disengage so that we can engage in our new reality. We dismantle so that we can put ourselves back together in a new way. We let go of some aspects of our identity so we can claim new ones. We release one set of dreams and illusions so that we can weave something fresh. In other words, transitions are a process of putting new patterns and habits in place bit by bit, sort of feeling our way. There's a lot of experimentation, a lot of room for failure and missteps. We need to give ourselves and others lots and lots of grace. Now, the 3 stages of a transition, the ending, the neutral zone, and the new beginning, are not linear. They don't come one after another. We flow in and out of them. It's chaotic and messy, kind of like a construction site. But we get through it. If we work at making a good ending, if we tolerate the discomfort and ambiguity of the neutral zone, and if we leave ourselves adequate time in that strange territory, we create a strong and careful foundation for our new beginning. So let's circle back to our stories, just in time for their happy endings. The story that begins with Palm Sunday ends, of course, with Easter. Unitarian Universalists' views on the resurrection are varied. Few of us believe Jesus physically came back to life, although I have been informed by my children that if he did, if there was a bodily resurrection, Jesus was technically a lich, not a zombie. I don't really know what that means. But I find it hilarious, albeit sacrilegious. It's far more common. Actually, he said too that the cross is his phylactery. I don't even know what a phylactery is, but this was our conversation one Easter. It's far more common in UU circles to understand the resurrection metaphorically. In the wake of loss, the community came together and made a commitment to embody Jesus' legacy, which is something we do as a part of each and every memorial service. After loss, love lasts. And we carry forward that legacy of love, and we pass it along like endlessly expanding ripples on a limitless lake. Meanwhile, the Jewish people survived one of the biggest and most dramatic transitions in the literary canon and made it through to the other side, where they established a kingdom which, although it was problematic historically in real life, in the story was a just and merciful society, a promised land on the other side of Jordan. So what's the common theme in these 2 stories, right? It's the power of community, to support one another in hard times, to find the way through the unknown, to carry forward the legacy of those loved and lost. And that's really what I want you to hold on to through the ministerial transition and all the transitions and challenges and changes that life brings. It is hard to be human. And as brilliant and as strong as you are, as each of you are, we all have our limits. And sometimes we just can't hold it together, right? But as they said in the divorce groups, in the moments when we can't hold it together, we hold it together. Every ending has the seed of a new beginning within it. Every arrival requires an exit. Every exit leads us to a new place. The journey continues. We don't get to know where the path in front of us is leading. But one thing you do know, one thing we all know, is that we don't have to travel it alone. So be it. Amen. And blessed be. Let's sing number 1020 in the Teal hymnal, Wo Ya Ya. We're doing percussion.
You guys gotta keep a steady beat though. Don't let me down. Because it says it right in the hymnal, like you gotta have a shaker. So can somebody else do a nice 6/8 here? Awesome, thank you.
Is that too fast? Our closing reading is Blessings for the Beginning by Carrie Kopnick. The things to do have been done, well for the most part. The people we need are in place, almost. We are ready, or as ready as we will be. Bless this perfectly imperfect beginning. May we find the right people to do the right things as we go. May we discover that what we needed was right here all along. And may we remember to stop and marvel at the magic of each moment as it floats by. Now, the lay pastoral ministers offer a holding circle each week after the service is over, but today we wanted to try and create a holding circle for everybody for our sung benediction. So let's just figure out what that looks like. Maybe it looks like holding hands, or maybe it looks like holding yourself while just being surrounded by the other members of our community. For those of you on Zoom, maybe it looks like holding a hand up to the camera and sending and receiving love through the interwebs. Whatever feels right to you, whatever helps you feel held and part of a community that's holding each other. So let's do this. Let's make a holding circle. Please join me in the words to extinguish and embody our chalice flame. We extinguish this chalice that it might glow gently in our hearts. May it light our paths as we leave this place. May it guide our way until we are together again. I don't know how I'm going to get through the next 3 months. I don't know how I'm going to say goodbye. But I know this. Love lasts. Love lasts, and I will carry you with me, and I will love you always. Go in peace. Come back next Sunday.